hackathon workshop for Java. My name is Austin, and I will be hosting this workshop for the next hour. So um before we get hold on. So before we get started, anyone here know Java?
Yeah, a little bit like on code.org.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Don't worry. This meeting will basically go over the basics of Java. Just the simple stuff. Um, So like I said, my name's Austin. I would want to say thanks for allowing me to host this session. So for today, we're going to keep it simple. So for topics, we're going to go over um, IDEs I would personally recommend for using for Java, data types, variables, how to assign variables and make them, uh, conditional statements like if else, and else if, repetition, repetition for statements such as while, do while, and for statements, and how to put input and output. So I imagine everybody here might be kind of new or may not know what Java is all the way, but just to kind of give a basic outline of what Java is, Java was first developed back in 1995 by Orkut. It is a static programming language, which means that you do need to uh, call the data type before you can make variables. And the main thing with Java is that it focuses on OOP, or object-oriented programming, which is generally when you make a bunch of classes that have their own attributes and methods that are meant to represent stuff in real life. Oh, I'm breaking up. Uh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, so like I was saying, Java was first made around the mid 1990s, 1995 by Oak Ridge. It is a static programming language, which means that when you make a variable, you need to set the data type. And the main thing with Java is that it has a major focus on object-oriented programming, which means which if you don't know what that is when we make a bunch of classes that have their own different attributes and methods that are meant to represent elements of the real world. I would say, as a comparison, it's very similar to C Sharp and C++ in terms of functionality. I would say the only real differences is like the syntax, and it's currently being run on over 30 billion devices on the world, which is a lot. um, As you can see, there's a little example of what Java looks like. We'll get more into that um, in a bit. So,
So I have a doubt.
yes.
For creating AIs, they are using Python, but even though Java is more stable, why are they not using Java for AI?
I'm sorry, what was that?
For creating AI, we are using Python. Meanwhile, why are we not using Java?
Okay, so are you asking why don't we use Java for AI?
Yeah, sir.
Um, I I'm not sure. I think I'm pretty sure you can use Java for AI. But for this, it's just basically the basics functionality of how to code with Java. Um, okay. S- So for IDEs, I think we all know what an integrated development environment is. It's basically what you would use to code to make your program or software. In this case, with Java, I would say the best ones to use are stuff like IntelliJ, which is what I personally use, and what I will be using for this presentation. But there's also others like NetBeans, Eclipse, Lepre, and several others. There are several other IDEs that you can use when you want to use Java. So when you so the first thing to learn with Java is the many data types that it has. So with Java, there are 8 primitive data types, and a primitive data type is basically like a simple one. The first thing first is are the 4 integer types. From smallest to biggest, they are going to be byte, short, int, and long. You'll most likely use int. I don't think I've really ever used the other 3 other than showcasing an example. Um, but they are all the integer types. It's just they varies in how big the number they can get. And I'll kind of show an example of that on here. So, oh yeah, so when you want to make Java, okay, so this is your class. So it's going to be public class and whatever the name of this file is. In this case, is hackathon. So for every Java code is going to have something called a skeleton, which is basically like the bare minimum a Java code will have. So in this case, we need to set up the main method, which is going to be public static void main, all lowercase, parentheses, string, square brackets, arg, or strings, excuse me. Oh, what happened? That's weird. Static void. Okay, I don't know what happened there. But as you can see, the skeleton of Java is going to be public static void main string square brackets arg and then these brackets. And in here is where you're going to put your basic code. So first, I'm going to show an example of each integer. So if I did something like this, actually, I should mention that when you're naming things in Java, there are certain things you can't name it. In this case, one of the example is you can't name it one of the data types. So I can't call it short, which is why I'm going to do short example. So as you can see, if we did 128, it works fine. But if we did 1,245, oh wait, no. Oh, my bad. No wonder why. That's because I gave the wrong data type. That's why. So as you can see, we get an error. Well, we made this 124. It works because byte accepts, I think, anywhere from 125 to negative 125. Actually, I should probably fix the name. Okay, so now we're going to do short. So we did short example, and we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see, once we kind of get into the 100,000 range, that's where we get an error. And if we do int, which is probably the most common one you will use, and it can go on for a really long time. Actually, I don't know how, I forgot the exact range, but as you can see, it can actually hold 10 decibels, so we can actually get it to like a billion. So now we're going to do long. This one's kind of weird, because this one you actually have to put the L, or at least from whenever I use it, it has to put the L, but as you can see, we can make it a very big number. Oh, okay. We found the limit, but as you can see, it can be really big. It's much bigger than the other 3. So this is generally how big the 4 integer types and how big each one could be until we get an error. So everyone good so far? Okay. So
So we need to mention that for byte means we need to enter only 3 values.
yes, byte is generally 3 values. Short is 5. Int is like 10, and long is like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. It is about, I think, 19, 20, somewhere in that range. But you can see on the slide, yeah, this is going to be basics because Because this is just meant to help get you an idea how to do Java for your actual hackathon. But as you can see on the right side, I actually included a little picture that shows like, and it actually says in the description the exact range each value can be. So the next thing I'm going to go over is decimal. In this case, we only have two, double and float. Double is more commonly used, but float is still pretty important. So just to set it up, so we're going to do double example, and in the here decimal is going to have, since it's decimal, it's going to have a little dot. So just showcase how big it can get. So as you see, it can actually get pretty big. Okay, I think I showed the example. So now I'm going to do float. Float example. And there's a couple differences here. For instance, you actually have to put F at the end. But again, just to kind of showcase how big it can get. I think both can actually get generally around the same size. Okay, I'm not going to waste your time with that. But as you can see, they're both good for holding decimal values. The only little difference is doubles, you don't have to put the little F at the end. Okay, so going over here, I know on the right side it says they can actually hold double can hold more decimal points, but it's much more. So the next one we have is bowling, which is just simple, it's just true and false. Just to kind of demonstrate that, we're gonna do bowling example one, and we're gonna call all this true, and we're gonna do bowling example two, which is gonna be false. So here, this is where we would assign a true or false value to a bowling. And I'll kind of probably use that a little bit more to kind of showcase what you can do with it later on. And the last very primitive type, but not quite the last data type we're going to go over, is character, char. So a character is any number, is basically any button on the keyboard that you can put in single quotation. It can be a number, it can be a letter, it can be a character like the Amsterdam or the dollar sign. As long as it's only one of them, or it's in a single quotation, it's valid. So just to kind of showcase it, got care example one equals let's go with a care example two, let's give it a number, let's go with 7, and care example 3, let's go with the percent sign. And as you can see, it can take in a letter, a number, or a symbol. As long as it's in a single quotation, it's valid. Now, but if we add a second value to it, let's make this AB, you can see we get an error. And that's because characters are only meant to take in one character. Now, there is a common misconception that you can only assign letters to a character's value. That is not true. It's more commonly used for letters, but you can still use numbers or symbols for it. So that's it for the primitive types. But the next we're going to go over is, there is one more, and it's a very commonly used one, and that is string. Now, string is generally a group of characters. It is actually defined as a complex type in Java. But the main basic is for character or string is that string is a group of characters. It's basically words or sentences, and it's wrapped in a double quotation. And I kind of include some examples like welcome to Java. Coding is great. So for here, I'm going to make another example. String example equals double quotation. Good morning. How are you? You can see that it works because strings are meant to basically take in words and sentences. So that is basically it with the data type. Is everyone good so far? Any questions? Did I go too fast? Did I go too slow? Like what's how are we feeling so far? Um, doesn't seem like we have any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next one. So the next thing I want to go over is variables and how we can assign variables. And you might have already been able to tell based on how I made some of those primitive types and that string. But in Java, a variable is a piece of data that we assign a value to. And how you generally set it up is you would first do it by setting up what data type is, whatever name you want to give it. In this, it's kind of like when I was doing the integers examples, I did int example, and you're going to make it equal to one equal sign, and then you're going to assign it any value you want as long as it matches the data type you gave at the beginning. And it's very important that you do one equal sign, and I'll go over that in a minute. But here are some examples. We have int num equals 5, double dub equals 2.5, boolean true or false equals true, character equals C in the single quotation, and string words equals hello in the double quotation. So variables aren't super difficult. I'm kind of going over this one a little fast just because I kind of already showcased some examples. Any questions here? Um, okay, doesn't seem like we have any questions. So the next thing I'm going to go over is I'm going to start going over a conditional. So conditional in Java is basically when we want a piece of code to run only if a certain condition is met. And the first one of these statements, hold on, we got a question. Character and string is the same. Not quite. String is one character, or no, I'm sorry. Character is one character. String is like a group of characters. So let me just type that out. String is basically like this. So I'm going to post an example in chat. Character is just the one character in the single quotation. String is a group of characters in the double quotation. Um, Hopefully that clears up any confusion. So the first one of these conditionals that we're going to go over is an if statement. An if statement is really simple. So basically how you set it up is you would do if, and then you're going to put a set of parentheses. And in this parentheses is whatever condition you want. So for this example, let's say boolean example 1 is equal to true. And this is kind of what I was going by earlier when I said make sure when you're assigning values only use the one equal sign. If you use the two equal signs is usually what we use to compare, but the one equal signs is usually what we use to assign. Hello. So here is basically whatever you want whatever you want the code to put out. So in this case, we can do Boeing example 1 is indeed true. And if we run it, we should get that exact quote. Oh yeah, I realized I didn't go over system out plant line just yet. What? Oh shoot, I'm on the wrong one. I'm on the wrong class. But I'll kind of go over how to point out stuff near the end. So as you can see, it points out at the bottom. Boeing example 1 is indeed true, because if we look at Boeing 1, it says it has to be equal to true in order to function. And if we go up earlier, we did assign it the value of true, so therefore this condition is true, and therefore this does run. Although in this case you could simplify it, you could just say if Boeing example 1. But if you're new, you can do if Boeing example 1 is equal to true. So the structure of it is that you're going to do if parentheses, in that set of parentheses, you're going to put whatever condition you want. Then you're going to do brackets, and in between those brackets, you're going to put whatever you want the code to run if that condition is true. Does everything make sense so far? Any questions about this one? Okay. So the next one we're going to go up is if else. So in this case, we may ask ourselves, what if we want something to happen if the initial condition is false? And that's where if else comes into play. So I did provide a diagram to kind of help better explain this. So here we have the condition. So if that condition is true, it will execute the if block, and it'll basically just it'll either end the program or just continue where the program left off. However, if that else statement is false, it'll execute something different. So it's kind of like a or B option, where the program will do different things depending on what the condition is, or depending if the condition is true. So to set it up, we would set it up like we would do with if, but after that closing brackets, we're going to do else, and then another set of brackets, and then we're going to have inside that book set, again, what we want the program to do if the condition is false. So just set it up. We are going to do if int example is less than 50. Obviously that's false because we gave it like this really big number up here. We're going to do system.out.println int. Actually, hold on, I'm going to do a better example. If 15 modulus 2 is equal to 0, which if you don't know what this means that if the remainder of 2, if 15 divided by 2 does not give us any remainders, we're going to say 15 is an even number. But since that's not true, we're going to do else brackets, and we're going to do system.out.println 15 is an odd number, because 15 modulus 2 is not 0. So just to demonstrate that, as you can see, since 15 divided by 2, since 15 modulus 2 is not equal to 0, it would be equal to 1. We get 15 is an odd number. So does that make sense? Any questions about this? Okay, seems like we're all good. Feel free to ask questions if you need any. And the last conditional that we're going to go over is going to be the else if. And the else if is very similar to the other two, but there is one difference, and that is you can actually set up more multiple conditions and more than 2 options. Just to kind of demonstrate, an else if statement is very similar to if else, but like I said, the main difference is you can actually have multiple specific conditions, and you can have more than 2. So looking at the example, it kind of looks similar. So we have if condition, and if that's true, it'll run the code we want to run. Else if condition true, code we want to run if initial condition is false. And then we have else if condition 3, and it'll run the code we want to run if this condition is false. And then we kind of go down here, and we have else code we want to run if the initial condition in is false, which I know is kind of weird, but if you want a better example, I don't know why this is Spanish, but whatever. Here we have if a is less than 15, it'll print out whatever this says. I don't know. Less than 15. Else if a is less than 30, it'll print out this statement. Else if is less than 50, it'll print out this. Else if it'll put a is less than 80, it'll print out this. Else it'll print out this. Again, I don't know why Spanish. I tried to find a good screenshot. I did not realize it was Spanish. But you can kind of get the general idea, right? If the first condition is false, it'll move on to the second condition. If that one is false, it'll move to the third condition. If that one is false, it'll move to the fourth condition. And otherwise, it'll just print out the default output. Hold on. Sure, we mentioned else if all things also will get the same output. Also will get the same, we get the same output. I think so. I don't quite know what you mean by that. Also, I would want to mention is, even though it's better to use brackets, you can actually just get away with not using brackets if it's just the one line. And I'll demonstrate that in a bit, but first I'm going to showcase that in an else if. So let's say if hold on, give me a random number. Give me a number. We're gonna try to make this interactive. Put a random integer in the chat. All right. 7, 509, 67, 76. I'm gonna go with 76, I think. Actually, I'm gonna go with 67. Because I think that works for the example. If 67 modulus 2 equals 0, we're gonna say system.out.println 67 is, oh, forgot the double quotation, is divisible by 2. Else, if 67 modulus 3 is equal to 0, I used the wrong sign. My apologies. System dot out dot println 67 is divisible by 3. I think I misspelled this, but whatever. Else if 67 modulus 5 is equal to 5, system dot out dot println 67 is divisible by 5. Else if 67 divisible the modulus 10 is equal to 0, system dot out dot println 67 is divisible by 10. Else, we're just going to say system dot out dot println 67 is a prime number. I think technically it is. But yeah, so we're going to run it. We should get 67 as a prime number. As you can see, we get 67 as a prime number because it's not divisible by 2, not divisible by 3, not divisible by 5, and it's not divisible by 10. So we get the default option. Also, just kind of showcase the other example. You can actually use, you don't have to use brackets for if statements if it's only the one line. So we say, I'm going to grab another number. If 5, I'm going to go with 76. if 76 modulus 2 is equal to 0, we're going to say system dot out dot print line. Don't forget your colon. 72 is an even number. And as you can see, it actually worked because this is the only thing under the if statement. I would prefer using brackets, but it is possible. And as you can see, it does get 76 as the number. But if I try doing another statement, 76 is divisible by 2. I misspelled that. As you can see, okay. Yeah, so I thought it only worked if you only have like one line under it, but maybe I guess technically because it's still true. Oh well. But you get the general idea. So that's it for the conditional. So now we're gonna do repetition. Everyone good so far, by the way? So in Java, so the difference, so here we have our groups, and the main difference between groups and condition is that there is some similarities. So I will say this for loops, for all three types we're going to go over, they do need to meet a certain condition to continue to run. However, with the conditionals we just did, they will only run once. But with a loop, they will run multiple times as long as that condition is true. So the first two I'm going to go over, and I'm going to kind of lumping them together because they're very, very similar, is that are the do while and the while loops. So basically, um, they're very similar in that they will run a piece of code potentially indefinitely as long as the whatever is in the parentheses is true. However, there is a difference from that. While we will check the condition first before it runs the code, do while will run the condition, will run the code at least once, and then it'll check the condition. So just to kind of showcase an example, I'm going to do while. First, I'm going to make another option just to make this more interesting. So I'm going to do int user option. And I'm going to do while user option is not equal to 5. I'm going to do, okay, okay, yeah, you need to initialize it. Don't forget that. We're going to do system dot out dot print line. Please put in your favorite season. And then we could do system dot out dot print line. I'm gonna copy and paste just to save time. So we can do fall, winter, spring, summer, and maybe here I'm gonna have if oh yeah, I forgot to put the numbers just to make it a little interesting. And we're gonna do if user option. Oh yeah, hold on. Oh, I forgot one little thing. Okay, so I'm gonna do user option equals. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna hold off on that example till later because um I haven't gone over scanners yet. But basically, what I will show later is that as long as this is true, it'll keep going. Actually, hold on. You know what? I'm gonna do something better. System uh system.out.println, we love to code. And do user option plus plus. And basically what this will do, it'll add a number onto it. So we're going to do that. So as you can see, it prints out 5 times. So prints out we love the code. I'll add 1 to user option. And I'll make it 1, does it again, make that 2, does it again, make that 3, does it again, make that 4, does it again, make that 5. It'll check the condition on the 6th time. It'll say, wait a minute. It'll make user options now 5. We can't do this. And it'll basically end the code. So the idea with do while is basically the same thing, but it'll actually do it first. So I'm gonna just copy and paste it. So just to kind of showcase it, don't forget your parentheses or your semicolons. As you can see, it goes on forever. Oh yeah, oh, you know what I think it is? I think it's because it takes in the value from the other one. Yeah, so don't do that. So I'm just gonna initialize it again. So as you can see, we love the code, we love the code, we love the code, we love the code, we love the code. So I can see it does it 5 times. Well, that's not true. However, on the 5th time, it'll check and it'll be like, oh no, it's 5 now. We can't do this anymore, so it ends the code. Does that generally make sense so far? So the next loop I'm gonna go over is a for loop. Now a for loop is very interesting. So unlike a while loop and a do while that has the potential to run forever, 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 a for loop is actually meant to run only a finite amount of times. And it's based on 3 components. And I'm going to display those on the PowerPoint. So so the first thing you want is the initialization. So this is where you set up a variable, usually an integer, and you give it a initial value. And next we're going to make a condition. So in this case, we're going to say x is less than 10. And next thing and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the increment plus plus. So just to kind of explain how this functions. So before the for loop does a thing, it sets up the initial value, which in this case is going to be x is equal to 0. Next is going to check the condition. Is x less than 10? Which in this case it is less than 10 because it's currently 0. So it's going to run whatever we would want it to run, which in this case, let's just have it count up, just to keep it simple. And at that point, it's going to run, and after it runs whatever it's supposed to do in here, it's going to look at the increment, and it's going to see, okay, what do we need to do to the initial value? And we can see it adds its x plus plus, which means we have to add 1 onto the initial value. So after the first time it runs, this becomes 1. It checks the condition again. Is x less than 10? It is. It'll do this again. But not 1. Increment again, add 1 onto it. It'll make that 2, and it keeps going, going, going until we get to x is equal to 9. It'll check if x is less than 10. It is, because 9 is less than 10. It'll point out 9. Then it'll add 1 more onto it, make that 10, and then it'll check again. It'll say, is x less than 10? It's not in this case, because 10 is not less than 10. So it'll basically say, okay, we're done here, and then it'll just move on. So does that make sense? Any questions about that? Let me ask you a question. Why do we want a for loop to only run a certain amount of time? Why can't we make it run forever, forever, forever? Anyone got an answer to that or?
Is it because for the for loop, there are more specific conditions, and like while for while loop, it's just like if this is true, it just runs forever and forever and forever.
Kind of. So the thing is with while loop and do while, and I'll kind of show that once I go over inputs and outputs. From what I've experienced, while loops and do while usually involves user inputs. They're usually dependent on what a user might input. But with a for loop, um, the reason why for loop for the most part is never based on user input. It's based on that condition. It's kind of like a machine. The reason why at some point, what? Oh, okay. The reason why at some point we would want the condition no longer be true, because if otherwise, if we were made it so that the code could potentially run forever, what you would get is you would get like an infinite loop. And what happens is at that the program will keep running that code forever, forever, forever until the program crashes. And we don't want that to happen, we want the program to be able to do other things other than that for loop. So that's kind of the reason why we have it set up in a way such that at some point this condition is no longer true. So that kind of makes sense.
Thank
Okay,
you.
no problem. Any other questions we might have?
Can there be a time where the for loop can be in the while loop?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, I believe so. You could technically do anything you want with either one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. To be honest, you could rewrite this in a way such that it is a while loop, and you could do this by doing while x is less than 10. First, you would have to set it up. So we're going to do int x equals 0. X is less than 10 while x is less than 10. We're going to do system.out.point10, and we're going to do x plus plus, which is basically the same idea. It prints out the current value of x. It keeps adding up. It'll check to make sure it's less than 10. It'll keep doing that until eventually x is equal to or greater than 10. So as you can see, starting here, we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Basically the same as when we did it with the for loop. Oh, does someone have a question? No? Okay. So you could probably rewrite this as a for loop or a while loop. It's just that with while loop, you usually use that based on user input. Speaking of user inputs, I'm going to go over print input and output. So in Java, there are two ways we want to print out data to the user. They're kind of the same. They are system.out.println and system.output. The real difference is with print line, after you print something, it'll jump to the next line. But print does not do that. And you're probably wondering, what do I mean by that? So if I did system.out.println, and if I said something like print line will jump to the next line, and maybe I did another one, as you can see here. So I'm gonna add another one, just so it's a little easier to differentiate. You can see here on one line we have print line will jump to the next line, and on the next one we have, as you can see here. But if we use just print, what would happen is is that first we'll do our first one. Print will not jump to the next line, and then I'm going to do system.out.println, although in this case it doesn't really matter. I just want to showcase what print would do, as you can see here. And if I run it again, as you can see, even though I did make this statement to different lines, they print out on the same line because this was print. So whatever came after that, it was going to be on the same line as the print line, or the print statement. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. Perfect. So the last topic we're going to go over, I believe, is scanner. So in Java, we use a scanner to keep track of user inputs. And to set it up, you would do this line at the very beginning of the code, input java.util.scanner. And next, if you want to set it up, you would do it somewhere in your main method. You would do it like scanner, and you would give it a name equals scanner parentheses system.in. And whenever we wanted to input data, we would do variable equals scanner name dot next, whatever the data type is. You know, if it's int, you would do next int. If it's a string, you would do next line. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but just demonstrate it. First, we're going to do the input. So we're going to do input.java.util.scanner. So now somewhere in the code, we're going to set it up. We're going to do scanner scan equals new scanner system dot in. So next, I'm going to do the example I tried to do at the beginning. So I'm going to do user option equals 0, just to initialize it. And now I'm going to do while user option is not equal to 5. I think I flipped this by mistake. Oh yeah, so the exclamation mark that means not. I probably should say that. Just to demonstrate it. Oh, I have a lot of questions. Question one more time, please. One more time for which? Hello? Oh yeah, hold on. I'm gonna make a note in the chat. Be true. True. I'm gonna make a little note because I know only one has to be true. To be true. Yeah. So I put a little note in the chat. And when you're using boolean, there are 3 types: and, or, and not. So just to kind of demonstrate what I was originally going to do earlier, system.out.println give me a, oh, don't forget your double quotation, give me a number representing following seasons. And then we could do system.out.println one dot. I'm just gonna copy this just to save a little bit on time because I think we're kind of running a little low. Okay. 2, 1 fall, 2 winter, 3 spring, 4 summer. So now we're going to do maybe an if statement. Actually, no, not yet. We're going to do user option equals scan dot next int. So now we're going to set up an if statement. If user option equals 1, just have it point out something related to that. I don't know. Fall is very buddy. That's when the weather starts to get cool. Else if user option equals 2, system dot out dot println winter is great because it has snow and Christmas. Else, oh, it spells Christmas. I don't know how I did that. Else if user option is equal to 3, spring is nice, is lovely because of the flowers and weather. Else if user option equals 4, summer is amazing because I get to swim and it's my birthday, which by the way, summer actually does have my birthday. My birthday is actually July 14th. Okay, so just to showcase, just kind of showcase user input. I just want to kind of give you more an idea of how while statement works. So as you can see here, give me a number representing the following seasons. 1, fall; 2, winter; 3, spring; 4, summer. So let's say if I did spring, give me a number between 1 through 4. Let's do this in order. 2, okay. 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna go with 3 because we're in spring. So you can see spring is lovely because of the flowers and weather, and you can see it prints the same thing as it prints up here. So I'm gonna put 2. Winter is great because it has snow and Christmas. Okay, 1 or 4. Oh, thanks. My birthday is like 3 months from now, but thanks anyways. 1. Okay, I'm gonna go with 1. I can see it points out fall is very pretty. That's when the weather starts to get cold. Probably could have done a little better than that, but whatever. And I'm gonna do 4. Summer is amazing because I get to swim in my birthday. Now if I put in 5, I can see the program ends because it only runs as long as the user option is not equal to 5 and there's nothing afterwards, so it basically ends. So just to kind of explain what we did, it took into account the option the user put in, and then it compared them. It compared them using the if else, and it put out the appropriate response. And then it went back to the beginning of the while loop and it checked and see like, okay, is the user option equal to 5? If not, if it wasn't equal to 5, it would just print out up here and basically repeat. If it was, then it would basically end the code. Actually, I'm going to do another option just to better demonstrate that. Um, uh, system .out.println, have a great day. And I'm going to print that out, just to kind of showcase that a while loop will finish wherever it has to finish before it ends. So if I do 5 and see it says have a great day and the program ends. So going back to the PowerPoint for a quick bit. That's actually it. And good timing because we're almost. So did anyone have any questions? Any thoughts? Did you learn anything new? Any last minute questions? Okay. Well, it doesn't seem like there's any questions. Thanks so much for coming in. I hope you were able to. Can you show the scanner concept one more time? Yeah, absolutely. So scanner. So basically, what a scanner does. What about it specifically? No problem. Thanks for coming. I hoped you were able to learn a lot about this. What about the scanner did you need help with exactly? How to set it up, how it functions? Okay, so basically, how you set up is at the very beginning of your code, meaning before your class, you would put in this line, input java.util.scanner. Somewhere in your code,
Чему детская?
what?
Наверное, смотрит на другом мониторе AI как explanation.
Hold on, what? Okay, yeah, I'll try to make this short. Okay, so here you're going to do scanner, give it a name. You're going to do equals new scanner system.in. And whenever you want to use it, you would make a variable set it equal to the name of your scanner followed by .next int. In this case, because we're taking the integer. Does that kind of make sense? I'm sorry, I'm trying to wrap this up because we're actually going over time. Uh, does that make sense, Jethan? Okay, great. Any other questions? If not, have a great day. And no problem. Thanks for coming and have a great weekend.